Hi everyone and welcome back to our SQL session, and in this video what I want to show you is how we use the rename operator in SQL. So what we use the rename operator for in our relational algebra sessions is to disambiguate in self joins, and that's exactly what I'm going to do here. So what I want to do is from this countries table I want all pairs of countries which have the same which belong to the same continent. So basically I want a table which says which has one column country 1, another column country 2, and I should make sure that any row has two countries, country 1 and country 2, which are in the same continent. So let's start off by seeing what the countries table actually contains. So this is my countries table. It has a country code, a country name, and a region ID. So this region ID is what I want to join them using. So let's first go ahead and write a very simple query. What I'm going to say is select country name from countries, and let's just go ahead and run this. So it gives me the names of all 13 countries, and what I'm going to do next is I'm going to say select country name from countries, join countries. And if you remember, when I just say join, this is a Cartesian product, so it's mapping every country to every country, and from that I'm saying just give me the country name, and let's see what this does. And it says not unique table or alias, which is countries. So what it's trying to say is that this join that I'm using a self join, and it's not what I'm joining are not unique tables. So also another issue it has is that it cannot select country name because country name belongs to this table as well and this table as well. So this is where the rename operator comes into play. And what I want to do if I want to use the rename operator is right after this countries I can say as C1, and right after this countries I can say as C2, and if I run this now, this says that column country name in field list is ambiguous. So what that means is that it still cannot tell which country name I want, whether I want the C1 country name or C2 country name. So what I can do is I can write something like C1 dot country name, and let's try running this. So it gives me a really long table, and the reason I've got this long table is because this join right here is the Cartesian product. So I've got 13 countries in the countries table, and it's giving me 169 entries now, every country mapped to every country. So if I do C2 dot country name as well, we can see that it actually maps every country. So it maps Australia to Australia, Brazil to Australia, Bhutan to Australia, and so on. And then after it's done mapping every country to Australia, it starts mapping every country to Brazil. So that's how it's going. So to avoid that, what I can do is I want this join to be a natural join, and one way to do that is to just say natural join right here, but this is going to go wrong as well. So let's try this, and now what's happening is I've got a much smaller table, but if you look at this, it has mapped Australia to Australia, Brazil to Brazil, Bhutan to Bhutan, and that's it. It didn't map any countries to any country to a different country, and that's because when it did this natural join, it didn't do it on the region ID. It did it on every column. So because the country name in one column is the same as the name of the column in the other one. So basically C1 has a country name and C2 also has a country name. So it says I'm going to perform the natural join on all columns that have the same value. So the only way an entry in C1 has all attributes same as C2 is that it's the exact same entry. So what I need to do is I need to get rid of this natural join, and I'm going to say using, and I'm going to say region ID. And this is one of the reasons that I prefer using the using word here in natural joins instead of natural join itself. So if I run this now, as you can see, it gave me Australia and Australia, and it gave me Brazil and Brazil, but it also gave me Uruguay and Brazil, and I got that because they are in the same region, they're in the same continent, that's South America. And if you notice here, what I'm getting is something like Australia, Australia as well. So to avoid that, I can say something like where country, actually where c1 dot country name not equals c2 dot country name. And let's just go ahead and run this now. So it stops giving me the duplicate entries, but there are still some repeated entries, which is basically, look at this, it gives me China and Bhutan, but it also gives me Bhutan and China, because for that as well it's not equal. It actually says that this condition holds, c1 dot country name not equal c2 dot country name. So what I'll do is pretty simple. I just say c1 dot country name is less than c2 dot country name. So if I run this now, it just gives me when the country name here is less than the country name here. And it doesn't really matter how it's doing this comparison, because this thing is going to hold only once. So I know that if it holds for Bhutan and China, it cannot hold for China and Bhutan. So basically I've got this table right now, and this is giving me the pairs of all countries in the same continent. And another thing I can do is this rename operator. I've already used it for tables here, and that was the main purpose of this video, this rename operator right here. And what I can do now is I can also say I've got this column right here which I'm selecting, and I can also rename that. So I can say country 1. So what I'm saying is select this column and name it country 1, and select this column and name it country 2. And let's just go ahead and run this. Just take note here that for the table that I've got right now has country name here and country name here as well. So let's run this one now, and what it gives me is country 1 and country 2, which is a lot more convenient. So that's how I can use the rename operator. And one thing that I want to point out is that in MySQL I can just get rid of this as well. So let's just get rid of the as keyword everywhere. So let's get rid of this and run this now, and it gives me the exact same result. So what MySQL says is that whether you use the as keyword or not doesn't make a difference. If you just say select c1 dot country name and then country 1, it means that whatever you're giving second here is the rename of this thing right here. And the same goes here as well. If I say from country C1, it understands that what I'm trying to tell it is that rename the country's table to C1 and rename this country's table to C2, and it does that accordingly. So that's about the rename operator, and we've seen how we can do disambiguation in self joins using this rename operator, which is either using the as keyword or just skipping the as keyword and just giving the alias. The rename that we give is also called an alias. So that's what we've looked at here, and we'll continue with our SQL sessions from next video on, so stay tuned for it.